has deposed Venezuelan President Maduro, pleaded not guilty in a Manhattan court. A UN Human Rights Commission official warned that the U.S. operation breached a core principle of international law. Even as the legal battle unfolds, sources say the Trump administration is preparing talks with oil companies to explore boosting Venezuelan oil production in the aftermath of Maduro's ouster. Meanwhile, European leaders have pushed back strongly against Trump's suggestion of taking control of Greenland. Leaders were unanimous in saying the mineral-rich Arctic land belongs to its people. My colleague Geeta Mohan spoke exclusively to economist Jeffrey Sachs. Here are excerpts from that interview.
Do you buy the premise that the action was carried out to take out a drug lord, or does it have to do with oil, power, supremacy? Many have also said that Maduro provoked him with the televised dancing and mockery of Trump. What do you think are the primary reasons or provocations over here? And we've seen visuals over here. Did you anticipate, and I've been watching your interviews, your conversations, you must have anticipated all this, the movement, the action, but picking up a president from Venezuela and bringing him to American soil. Did you anticipate that?
Well, I anticipated some kind of violent action by the United States. They do kidnap presidents. President Aristide of Haiti was kidnapped by the CIA about 20 years ago. He was marched to a plane with an unmarked tail, and he was flown 23 hours to the Central African Republic, where he was dumped. In this case, they kidnapped the president of Venezuela and brought him to New York City, my home, in fact. What will happen next remains to be seen. If we still have the rule of law in the United States, a judge should not look kindly on the U.S. government kidnapping the president of another country and bringing him forcibly to the United States. So we'll see what the judiciary actually does, whether there is an independent judiciary still in the United States. This is a question. But it was clear that the United States was going to take some kind of violent regime change operation. And I just would like to share an interesting anecdote as part of this. In Trump's first term, in September 2017, in his first year of office, on the margins of the UN General Assembly in September of 2017, Trump had dinner with a number of Latin American presidents. And he said, even then, so we're talking basically about 8 years ago, he said, why don't I just invade Venezuela? So my point is that this is something that has been on the minds of the U.S. Security state for a long time. In that dinner 8 years ago, the Latin American leaders talked him down, said, Mr. President, that's not a very good idea. It could create a lot of instability. It might not be helpful for you and for the United States. Well, this time he didn't seek advice or listen to advice. He just took his foot off of the brake on our military machine, and they went after it. But
Jeff, what's the intent here? Drug trafficking, doing away with drug traffickers, or is it oil and supremacy?
It is two things. One, any left-wing government is a target of the United States. So this is decades and decades of regime change operations in the Western Hemisphere when there is a left-wing government. So this is part of it, and this is a left-wing government. But the second target is oil, obviously. Venezuela has vast oil reserves. In fact, on the official proved reserves data of the U.S. Geologic Survey and other lists, Venezuela's proved reserves are the largest in the world, even larger than Saudi Arabia's. Of course, they're not as economical. They're heavy oil, but they're nearby the United States. We have the refineries in the southeast of the U.S. Trump, he's a maniac. He looks for oil. He says, well, that's ours. It's like a child, frankly, but it is part of a deep state which has wanted to overthrow this government for a very long time.
You've already warned that Greenland could be next, but I have to ask you this. What next? Panama, Colombia, Mexico, Greenland. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, had put out a post with the American flag over the Greenland map saying soon. And Trump reiterated the same thing. So is Greenland next?
My fear is that Iran is next. Keep an eye on Iran. The reason is that Israel is obsessed with Iran, wants to overthrow the Iranian government, and the United States, for reasons that are not 100% clear, I have to say, is basically beholden to Israel. The United States fights wars that Israel tells the United States to fight. It's very, very dark, actually. And so when Netanyahu came to Mar-a-Lago last week, just around New Year's, they made a joint statement basically saying, Iran, you're next, or you could be next. And Trump has said that with protests in Iran, if the government cracks down on the protests, we are basically locked and loaded. We're ready to fight. Well, this is clearly a typical deep state provocation. In other words, we're lining up the arguments, the human rights argument. We're going to go in and invade Iran to protect the people of Iran. This is a standard playbook. And so this is where I would expect the possibility of a real global explosion. And I would give a warning. That one will be hotter than Venezuela if it happens. It would be potentially disastrous because while Venezuela is in the American geographic neighborhood and China and Russia don't want to take on the United States in the Western Hemisphere, Iran is in the middle of a lot of major powers, and Iran is itself with hypersonic missiles and a capacity to do a lot of harm and a lot of damage, and Israel is a nuclear-armed country. All in all, it's a recipe for potential disaster, and sound heads should be saying to the United States right now, stop it.
Monroe Doctrine now, by some, has been rechristened Donroe Doctrine. And we're looking at a Western Hemisphere narrative that has been put out by the Trump administration. Isn't that imperialistic and expansionist in nature at a time when maybe it's not just the international laws, but Trump has also violated some of the domestic war laws by not informing the Armed Services Committee, the Congress, not being kept in the loop, sir?
Look, we don't have a constitutional order right now. All those tariffs that were put on India, for example, were the whim of the President of the United States declaring this emergency or that emergency by executive decree. Congress has the power of war, not the President, but doesn't matter. And when a congressman complained that this is unconstitutional, Trump mocked him. Constitution? What are you whining about? He said. So we have a political crisis in the United States. It's not called that. It's not recognized like that. Congressmen still go to their office or they go to the floor of the House or the Senate, but they don't play a role. This is an executive branch that's on its own right now. And this is also very sad and very dangerous. Sure.
The Western Hemisphere argument by the United States of America, does that now give room for China to play out its plans for a takeover of Taiwan at a time when they're saying this is our region? China can say, okay, we've done nothing there, then you do nothing here.
Well, I hope that China and India, indeed the BRICS countries, will say this is not the way we want the world to operate. We want the world to operate according to the UN Charter, to international law. I believe that what has happened is actually an important opportunity for the BRICS, which this year has the Indian presidency, to say, no, we represent the bulk of humanity. In fact, the emerging and developing economies are 85% of the world population. We don't want to go down the road of rogue states. And so I hope that the BRICS actually make a real point right now. This is not how we behave. This is not how we're going to behave. We will defend the UN Charter.